Good morning and welcome, dear friends. And good to have you back with us. Oh, glasses. And good morning, Paul, and good morning, dear Magdalena. And good morning, David. Good to have you with us. And whoever else joins us, you're welcome. And good morning yet again to dear Sister Elizabeth in County Cork in Ireland. Sure, that's great, as to say in Ireland. Sure, that's great. Well, anyway, 2 reflections. But first, let's be still. Let's have time for a breather. And just relax. And just connect with the rhythm of your heart. And breathe in that peace. God's free gift to your heart. Sure, and it's top of the morning to our dear sister Susie in County Mayo. Good to have you with us, Susie. So our reflections are twofold. And the first reflection is from the book You Are the Beloved by Henry J.M. Nouwen. And it's a 2-worder, human intimacy. Wow. Well, let's read on. A mature human intimacy requires a deep and profound respect for the free and empty space that needs to exist between partners, and that asks for a continual mutual protection and nurture. Only in this way can a relationship be lasting, precisely because mutual love is experienced as a participation in a greater and earlier love to which it points. In this way, intimacy can be rich and fruitful, since it has been given carefully protected space in which to grow. This relationship no longer is a fearful clinging to each other, but a free dance. Love it, a free dance, allowing space in which we can move forward and backward, form constantly new patterns, and see each other as always new. How profound. How profound. So human intimacy is a journey. like being a monk or a nun, a vicar, an imam, a rabbi, a nurse, a doctor, a teacher, a therapist, a photographer. It has boundaries, and those boundaries have to be respected. But you can't teach someone how to be compassionate, and that's the latest joke that I've discovered from my colleagues at the surgery, are saying they're all being bullied by the trust to go on a study day on how to be compassionate. I'm glad I'm no longer in practice as a nurse, because you either have compassion in you can't acquire it in a classroom, and it's like marriage or a relationship with someone. It takes time, like a good wine. Have you ever had one of those home brew kits? I used to do years ago when Brother Eddie was alive. And we bought the kit from Booth's, the chemist in Manchester. And we came home, we got the big jar, we had the tubing from the ward, the suction tubing. We got it all going and it was bubbling away in the airing cupboard. And when day number 1 came to unleash the nectar, we were having to suck it through this tube into bottles, and we were bladdered, drunk, from siphoning little bits off at a time. But we enjoyed what we did, and I've digressed. If you are in a loving relationship with someone who respects you, who values you, who doesn't control you, who doesn't make you feel unworthy, you're blessed. But like all relationships, it takes time. It takes time. And what saddened me years ago, before we take our vows as monastics, we have a trial run. We have a probationary period for 2 to 3, 5 years. And you can discern if it's the life for you. But those poor unfortunate souls who meet one another and see love and fireworks and it's, oh, let's get married now. They don't get a trial run to live together because it's not considered acceptable by religion. But I truly feel that they should be given the opportunity to have a trial run, to live together, first to see if they're compatible. And then take the plunge for life. And it's disheartening when you see so many beautiful young people madly in love and their sex drive is 10 on the Richter scale. And within a matter of a year or two, they're separate and divorced. And I've often asked why. And I guess it's because I had 3 sisters in Dublin, well, 2 now. Eileen crossed over 4 years ago. And if I'm using anything as an experience, they got married very young to get away from the family home. And my word, they had their problems. And all of them ended up separate from their partner. They were immature. They didn't understand give and take. And it's the same with the relationship with God. Christ calls us to have divine intimacy. He calls us to experience a new way of living, a new way of loving. And he's the one that chases us. He proposes to us when we take our vows. And we have a choice, yes or no. But it's trial and error. We make many mistakes, and if we learn from them, then we enter a loving relationship where we're willing to receive constructive criticism so that we can improve that human intimacy in the spiritual path. But it takes two to tango. And it takes two to fall in love, and it takes two to fall out of love. And there's no guarantees other than if you've tried your best in a relationship, but your partner has been disloyal or has tried to control you, or there's been physical abuse or violence, that's a different ballgame altogether. God doesn't expect us to stay in relationships where we're deeply unfulfilled and unhappy. He doesn't expect us to stay in the monastic life if we're not fulfilled. But today, I've discovered we've become very easy peasy in our way of thinking and living. We have expectations that we will get it yesterday. I look at some of the wedding lists my nurse colleagues used to share with me, and I'm thinking they've nothing to work at when they get married. They want the washing machine, the freezer, they want a brand new kitchen installed, and they always go to the top stores like John Lewis. It's always good to work at something. If you're given everything all at once, there's no value, no appreciation. But I guess we're living in a culture of takers where we take all the time and are not willing to give or share. Last evening, I was watching the BBC local news for the Northwest, and there was a couple there who met each other in an old folks' home. They were in their 90s and they were so wonderful. And they were getting married. And the joy and the love, I had tears running down my face. They had found happiness again after many years of being alone. And they found it in a care home. And all the staff were so excited. I mean, of course, there are limitations when you're that age, but the love was there. And they were holding each other's hand and weren't letting the hand go. For me, that's human intimacy. There was a respect and a longing. A longing. But where does that leave you on your journey? Maybe you're on a journey where you may be seeking that human intimacy or divine intimacy, but it's there. But it's always best to check things out with your heart. It's always best to pray about something rather than rush into it for the sake of, because you'll come to regret it. But if you're living in a relationship where there's no human intimacy, only tears and sadness and rows and arguments, I'd get out as quick as I got in. Because I grew up in a dysfunctional Irish Catholic family in Dublin when I was brought over from Scotland at the age of 3, where I was born. And whilst I loved my mom and dad, they weren't put out for parenthood. They were professional people. Having children was an inconvenience. So I gathered when I had to leave school at 11 and forfeit my education in order to look after 7 of them. And then my young brother was born, 2 weeks old. I have him in my arms at the age of 11. But the rowing, when I think back how any of us didn't commit suicide, it was non-stop. And then the beatings. And your mum would ring your dad up at the butcher shop which she owned in Dublin, and she'd be shouting down the phone, "Get home here now and give them a bloody good hiding." And when he did, he really did, with the buckle on his belt, and he drew blood, and we were screaming, and my mum screaming to stop. God loved them, but when I look back, they didn't have love either. My father came from a very well-to-do Irish family who were big Protestants and had everything. He had everything you could give him. He was ruined, the youngest of 5 brothers. And my mom wasn't ruined. She had it tough in the Gorbals in Glasgow, working as a young girl in the ice cream factory belonging to my uncle, great uncle, and never had known love because Glasgow was a violent city. So they brought all that baggage, a lack of respect from my father, and my mum's feeling of unworthiness. It wasn't a match made in heaven, although when they met in Motherwell, it was dancing all night when Dad was on leave from the RAF. I think it was passion. But passion soon wanes. But for me, human intimacy can be brought into the religious life, into the monastic calling, where we live this simple life from our own home. We can incorporate human intimacy through our touch without being sexual. We can show tenderness, a hug, a smile, appreciation, and value the other person. Be there for them. These are qualities that God asks of us all. So let us be still and ask our heart, where do I stand today regarding human intimacy in my understanding and in my life? Am I devoid of this? Am I worthy of this? Of course you are. Or have you got a lot of hang-ups saying you're not worthy? I've been that for a start. You are worthy. It's your gift by divine birthright. God created us to experience the joy of the Lord, which is our strength. He didn't create us to be, well, I suppose, spiritual suffragettes, but not to be miserable and unhappy. I've seen too many of them in the religious life. God loved them. Enough. I need to drink, excuse me. And apologies for rabbiting on. Now for the 20th, from our little book, The United Christian Broadcasts. Seeing yourself as God sees you. Now there's a challenge. There's a big challenge. But the author says, go to Numbers 13, verse 33. We saw giants, we felt like grasshoppers. Oh, isn't that beautiful? We saw giants, we felt like grasshoppers. 10 of Israel's 12 spies returned from the promised land saying, we saw giants, we felt like grasshoppers. The other 2, Joshua and Caleb, saw the same giants but believed that with God's help, they could be conquered. Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able. That's the language of a winner. Understand this, he says. God has a plan for your life. Oh yes. But you'll never fulfill it until you come into agreement with his word. But I have so many problems. How could God use someone like me? You ask. Paul said, I don't mean to say that I have already reached perfection, for which Christ Jesus first possessed me. When God uses imperfect people, it makes us realize that he alone is our source. Love it. He is our strength, our strategy, and the secret to our success. The Bible says the foolish thing that has its source in God is wiser than men. And the weak thing that springs from God is stronger than men. Corinthians 1 verse 25. You have a God-ordained destiny and no excuse for not fulfilling it. Now there's a one-liner. You can't use weakness as a defense. For God says, my strength is made perfect in weakness. You can't use your past as an excuse. For God says, all things are passed away. All things are become new. That's Brother Sid. How God sees you isn't the problem. It's how you see yourself that keeps you from succeeding. So ask God to give you a new understanding of how he sees you. Loved, righteous, blessed, and favored. We're living in a really exciting, though disturbing world where young girls from the age of 11 are getting sucked into this thing about having facials, but having surgery at such a young age. And so many young girls in secondary school, or probably primary as well, they're not happy the way they look. None of them are content. They don't like how they look, and that reflects on how they feel. And a large percentage of them want cosmetic surgery. Their buttocks extending, that's the latest craze. Their face altering, their hairline and their eyebrows lifted up. I mean, they're like a jet taking off. Or as somebody once said to me in the monastery years ago, my God, I wouldn't like to travel on a plane with Elizabeth Taylor. And I said, why not? She's beautiful. Ah, yes, but you don't know which part is going to blow up. Joking. What I'm saying is, look in a mirror. That's the key. I dare you today to look at a mirror. And I guarantee you'll probably hum and haw, oh, I don't like that about me. Oh, my hair's going a bit grey. Or I've got shopping bags under my eyes, they need to be lifted. Or my double chin probably could do with removing. My ears could do with shortening. There's no end. There's a woman who's been on TV last year, and she spent to the tune of 70 grand on reconstruction surgery, and she looked a nightmare. And she's still unsure, still insecure. If you can look in the mirror and ask God to put on Christ's mindset and look again at your eyes, forget about the flab and the excess fat. Look at the eyes, connect with the window of your soul and see what Christ sees. He's looking at your heart. He doesn't give a monkey how you look. It's how you feel inside. And that's why we live in a culture today where so many are so lonely, lost souls, young people taking their own life. It's got out of control, especially with university students here. And I know there was a bad spate a number of years ago when I was running retreats near Mitchelstown in County Cork, young people taking their own life. But why? What drives people to that? What is it that's gone wrong in their DNA? Why are they so unhappy, so miserable and unfulfilled? Could it be pressure from the media, pressure from peer groups? Come home to your heart. come home to your heart and bring back that feel-good factor that God gave you at birth. Let's relax. Let's be still. Lord, two challenging subjects today, but what are you saying? What are you trying to tell us about human intimacy? Never to be afraid to express how you feel from a heart of love. If others choose to reject you or malign you or control you, bless them, but walk away. And what about, Lord, being created in your image and likeness, where so many are unfulfilled? It's because they don't know me. They grow up in a culture where my name isn't even mentioned. They're spiritually filial children of God. But one day they will find me, or I will find them. And pray it's not too late for them. Lord, put on a new mindset in each one of us. Give us the ability to be humble and to come to you as we are, as broken vessels, so that you can give us the inner knowing and the strength to trust in you, not in what we think we know, but in what you know. Give us the courage to face each day as a new day, but give us that inner knowing that we're on this earth for a purpose. And that we're passing through, but it's not our permanent home. We're on a journey to share your love, to express that love through acts of human intimacy, but also to accept ourselves as we are, created in your image and likeness, disregarding the blemishes, the bald patches, the graying hair, the extended muscles and tummy muscles, and the little extra surplus fat. Help us to focus more on what you see and what you are saying to us, rather than be pressurized by ego, by peer groups, or by people who put us down. Give us the courage to bless those and walk away and protect who we are, a child of love, a child of God, a child who's been anointed by God to be free and to have a fun-filled life in service. Amen. Namaste, Shalom, Inshallah, Paxet Bonamam Shanti, Solo di Caritas, Salam Alaikum. And I pray that what was shared this morning, that some of it will have resonated with your heart. And I truly wish that you have a really good day today, and that you sing and dance with yourself. Don't be afraid of what other people think of you. I used to do, and I lived a miserable life. But now, since my time in Assisi 11 years ago, my neighbors think I'm barking mad. I hug trees. I dance in the garden. I sing to brother sun and sister moon. I prefer the animals to humans. Hello, that's definitely a section 48 under the Mental Health Act. But I don't give a Castlewood. I don't care. Because I've spent most of my life oppressed by negative religion, by dogma, and the seeds planted from a dysfunctional Irish Catholic family. But I'm happy now, no regrets. So have a laugh today. Look in the mirror, have a laugh. It'll do you good. Till tomorrow. Thank you for giving up your time. God bless you.